is another frigid day throughout most of the United States. It is insanely cold. Are we going to be able to make it to the point where we're able to say, thank God it's Friday? Or are we going to end up like Jack Nicholson at the end of Stanley Kubrick's The Shining? I don't know. I can't tell you. There's that polar vortex on the way. No one knows. Can we make it? Can we stay warm? I have no clue. The only thing I do know for sure is the Daily Dope is in the air. Howdy, 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 gang. Jeff McAleer once again, and I am your host here at the Daily Dope, as well as I happen to be the Grand Poobah of the GamingGang.com. And welcome aboard. It is Thursday, January 4th, and as I mentioned in the open, it is really, really cold. When are we going to see some double-digit temperatures? I swear, it's crazy. Anyway, before I get into the news and so on and so forth, I did want to mention, strangely enough, yesterday there was another sync issue with the audio. It wasn't horrible, but it was off by some milliseconds there. I could tell it wasn't brutal. It wasn't like the day before. And turn on the heat. Yes, thanks, Russell. Hey, at least the chat is working on this end. For some strange reason, the chat is not popping up on screen. I was playing around with that a little earlier today. I do not know what might be going on as far as the little chat program I use that kind of translates the chat from YouTube over to the stream. So Russell Higgins says, turn on the heat. Yeah, well, wish I could. Down here in the duct tape studio. I really do wish it. Anyway, so I was saying that there was a little bit of an audio issue. I'm not sure if that has been addressed. If Russell's watching live, maybe he can tell me how it seems. It looked okay to me, and here was the weird thing. I saw part of the feed yesterday when YouTube was rendering it after it was live, and everything was synced up. And then afterwards, it was kind of out of sync, and it came in and out of sync. So I'm kind of thinking it might be a YouTube rendering thing. I don't know. It's hard to know for sure. So anyway, so I've got a pretty big show lined up today. I have some news, still kind of quiet on the news front, but I also have an unboxing, and I am going to do an unboxing of Ancestree from the fine folks at Calliope Games, and this is looking kind of interesting. I really want to take a peek at it. You're supposed to effectively create a family tree, and whoever makes the most interesting family tree from these various tiles is going to be the winner. So sounds like some good family fun. I am also rolling out a review for the Two Headed Serpent from Chaosium Publishing. It is Call of Cthulhu. It's really Pulp Cthulhu. But I'm going to do something a little bit different because I only had received this as a PDF. And it is an adventure campaign, so I'm going to keep this spoiler-free. And I'm going to play around a little bit. I have some images that I will kind of share. I had talked about it on previous shows that it might be a little strange trying to do PDF reviews. Because at least I've got the camera, I can pop down a physical book. PDFs might be a little weird. So I'm going to try doing this. If the feedback isn't positive on doing the reviews this way, I might actually just try to show off the books on my iPad. I don't know. I have no idea. Anyway, so let's get on to the news. There are a few items that I'm going to talk about and kind of delve into a couple of things too. Anyway, there is a game on the horizon. It's coming out this July, and it looks pretty strange, kind of cool, but might be a little bizarre. And it is a dexterity game from WizKids, and it's called SEAL Team Flicks. As I mentioned, it's coming this July, and here's the dope from WizKids. SEAL Team Flicks is a fully cooperative or solo tactical dexterity game that pits 1 to 4 players against the forces of terrorism. Taking inspiration from several military-themed first-person shooter video games, SEAL Team Flicks incorporates flicking, dice rolling, and miniatures into an exciting, unique combination that will have the whole table standing up. Except maybe the terrorists, but I assume that the players aren't going to be the terrorists. The game has 2 modes, campaign and skirmish. In campaign mode, players embark on an 8-mission non-linear adventure. Individual SEALs will get promoted several times over the course of the campaign, if they live. In skirmish mode, simply play one of the 17 missions as a standalone set piece. In addition, the game's difficulty scales both with the number of SEALs playing, as well with 3 optional difficulty levels. SEAL Team Flicks is an objective-based game with primary and secondary objectives which need to be resolved to successfully complete each mission. For example, in some missions, you must locate and acquire intelligence against the terrorist organization Gaia's Hope. Guess they're eco-terrorists. In others, you must disarm time bombs or rescue hostages. While you're given intelligence at the beginning of each mission as to the number and nature of the objectives that need to be completed, every game will be different because you will never know where on the map they are, I'm assuming we're talking about the terrorists, or maybe objectives, until you physically locate them with your SEALs. The game is for 1 to 4 players, ages 14 and up, and will take about an hour to play, and will carry an MSRP of $59.99. As I mentioned, it seems a little bizarre. I have to be honest, I've never been huge on dexterity games. Okay, there's some that I've kind of played around with. Ice Cool I thought was fun, and I thought that was pretty cool for the kids. I've never played Chronicle, or Chronocle, I've heard people pronounce it. And I've tried some other kind of flicking games. Nah. But this does seem kind of cool. Now, I do want to mention that there was another news item that I found secondhand that I really wanted to kind of check out. And unfortunately, it was from a secondary source. And then I went to WizKids because it's a WizKids news piece about Beyond the Edge, which is a science fiction game that's going to be coming out. I think it's around July-ish. It's also going to be summer release, probably a Gen Con sort of release. So there was some information on a secondary source, but when I went to WizKids, there was nothing. There isn't even anything on Board Game Geek. And it did seem pretty cool because this game will have, it's kind of a 4X with legacy elements to it. But unfortunately, I don't share news from secondary sources, and I keep trying to get on board with WizKids. And it's really bizarre because I interviewed Scott DiAgostino at Origins Game Fair this past year. Had a lot of fun, great interview. They had a PR person or press person that he had introduced me to, gave her my card, never heard anything. And then next I hear is that person left for another job, so I don't even know who to talk to at WizKids anymore. Oh well, I'm trying. I'm trying, kids. WizKids. Anyway, it is Thursday. Thursdays are kind of going to be an RPG focus here on the Daily Dope. So I do want to mention that Modiphius Entertainment has released new and free quick start books for 4 of their role-playing systems. Hey, you know what? Free quick starts? That's a nice way to ring in the new year. Here's the dope from Chris Birch. Happy New Year from Modiphius. Looking to try something new in 2018? Well, why not check out one of our free quick starts? 4 new books have been added to the store. Infinity, Space 1889, Mutant Chronicles, and the Elite Dangerous RPG. And best of all, they're all free to download. I'm going to give you a little bit of information about each of the 4 role-playing games. Corvus Belli Infinity, or I guess they're calling it just Infinity. This quick start gives you an introduction to the 2D20 system, a short adventure, 4 pre-generated characters, and an overview of the Infinity Universe. The Infinity Universe was launched by Corvus Belli as a hugely popular tabletop skirmish game in which sci-fi themed miniatures simulated futuristic battles across the alien battlefronts of Paradiso. I guess it's not much of a paradise if they're fighting over it. And the conflicts of the human sphere. Before there was a skirmish game, though, there was an RPG. Infinity started life as a homemade RPG setting for the early role-playing adventures of Corvus Belli founders. They'd playtested the RPG with hundreds of people for months, working hard to recapture the excitement of those first sessions and to ensure that the feel of the Infinity Universe would be captured in your own campaign. So you can check out the quick start for free of that. A new role-playing game that's just popping out is based on the Elite Dangerous PC game, and it is the Elite Dangerous role-playing game. This standalone booklet contains a single adventure, The Worst Intentions, for you to play. Included are 4 pre-generated characters, including their ship and equipment. Partial rules for personal combat, spaceship combat, and ground combat, a lot of combat, are also included. Elite Dangerous, the role-playing game, is a skill-based system using a D10. What? Modiphius, what? Thought it's 2D20. And a skill bonus to exceed difficulty numbers. You advance by rank using the same rank structure as exists in the computer game. You begin as harmless and can make your way all the way up to deadly and then elite. Each rank has a skill cap, which is steadily increased as you gain in experience. Character creation begins with you choosing from a number of backgrounds, which come with a unique set of skill improvements and personal enhancements to enable your character to be as unique a person as you are. Gotta be honest, I know very little about Elite Dangerous. Just wasn't a game that I've really had any interest in playing on PC. I don't know, it's a big multiplayer. I thought that it's more trading and combat, so I don't know. But I will talk about a free quick start of a game that, although I have not played it, I am a bit familiar with, and it is Mutant Chronicles 3rd Edition. Mutant Chronicles takes you on a full-throttle diesel punk ride through a solar system beset by corporate intrigue and the invasion of the Dark Legion. With technology failing due to the insidious effects of the Dark Symmetry, mankind must fight back against the Dark Legion hordes while dealing with infighting and conspiracy. Now, in this quick start, I should say free quick start, of the 3rd edition of the definitive techno-fantasy role-playing game, you can play during the early days of the Dark Symmetry, through to the brutal corporate wars, investigate foul cults as technology turns against mankind, or fight the armies of the Dark Legion as they pour forth from citadels across the colonies in the battle for humanity's future. And then we have a game that I am intimately familiar with, at least back in the day when it was from GDW, designed by Frank Chadwick. Sure have been talking about Frank Chadwick a lot lately. And that is Space 1889. Everything Jules Verne could have written, everything H.G. Wells should have written, everything Arthur Conan Doyle thought of but never published because it was too fantastic. Space 1889 brings to life the literary fantasies created by Jules Verne, H.G. Wells, Arthur Conan Doyle, H.R. Haggard, and many others. Space 1889 is a science fiction role-playing game in a more civilized time. A time when gentlemen and ladies of good character discover that there are adventures to be found in London's fog-bound alleys, just as much as there are on the dusty streets of Syrtis Major on Mars. A time when soldiers might be posted to East Africa or Mars by order of their country. A time when inventors rush to test their latest designs and their latest theories. A time when historians search for the secrets of the ancient Martians. and when wild Venusian lizard men and proud Martian steppe warriors must serve their tribes and seek fame and fortune in a time when aliens from Earth have come to their planets. I will mention that this edition of Space 1889, which is from Modiphius Entertainment, I did a review of on thegaminggang.com, and I really, really dug it. They kept a lot of the great flavor that Frank Chadwick in his original design and the work that the folks at GDW had done back in the day in the system, kind of modernized a lot of the mechanics. So I really, really liked it. And if I remember off the top of my head, I gave it about an 8.8 out of 10. All right, since we're talking about role-playing games, let's talk about another role-playing game. And if you're a fan of the Delta Green world of dark conspiracies and the Cthulhu mythos, then you'll be pleased to hear a new 32-page adventure is available, and it's in PDF. I gotta get a sip here because my mouth is getting really dry again. The tale is entitled Viscid, and I have the dope from Arc Dream Publishing. Even death has a half-life. 2 days ago, a newspaper delivery driver found retired geneticist T-Bolt Greaves dead outside his suburban home. Police found Greaves' girlfriend dead in the house. A detective discovered a hidden lab outfitted with biohazard scrubbers. A CDC specialist found unidentifiable samples that indicated that something had gotten loose. When the sun rose, Greaves' body began to smolder and disintegrate. It was another 5 hours before Delta Green got involved. In Viscid, the agents must keep a lid on a story that threatens to spin out into the public in all its unnatural detail. They must delve into the secrets of strange and lethal forces acting in secrecy all around them. They must follow a trail of carnage to a horrifying communion. As far as Delta Green is concerned, staying alive is the last of their priorities. Viscid is playable with the Quick Start rulebook, Delta Green Need to Know, or with the core rulebooks of the Agent's Handbook and the Handler's Handbook. Isn't that the other one? Viscid is available from my pals over at DriveThruRPG for $4.99 in PDF or $14.99 for the PDF and print-on-demand edition. Go get some snow? We have snow. We've got snow already, Russell. Got it outside the house here in the Chicago area. I do want to piggyback on that nugget about the new adventure for Delta Green, because just recently there was some info that Arc Dream Publishing came out with talking about a hardcover collection of scenarios which were available only in PDF previously, and it is A Night at the Opera. And I don't think we're going to see any sign of the Marx Brothers in this. Here's the dope on this pre-order special. Fans have clamored for us to collect Delta Green's PDF-only scenarios in hardback. Here's your chance to get the first collection. After 300 pre-order copies have been purchased, the book will go to press. It will ship to customers 4 to 6 months after that. The PDF edition will be sent free to all hardback pre-orderers at that time. The hardback will ship to the public and to retail after pre-orders have been mailed. A Night at the Opera collects 6 Delta Green operations that were previously published only in PDF or in standalone paperback modules. Combined, they expose a team of agents to the edges of the horrors of the world of Delta Green, then suck them into abysses of fear and desperation from which the world itself may never emerge. Included are Reverberations, an introductory scenario in which the agents confront foes that were old before Delta Green was born. That's by Shane Ivey. I believe it's Ivey is his last name. The previously mentioned Viscid, which is, strangely enough, just now on DriveThruRPG. So that's kind of strange. Music from a Darkened Room. The agents must investigate a house that may be haunted by things more terrifying than ghosts. And that is by Dennis Detwiller. And then extremophilia. Can the agents stop the spread of a terrifying threat? Or will they become just another vector for the disease? That one is written by Shane Ivey as well. The Star Chamber. The agents must hear and adjudicate a horrific after-action report from another team by way of playing out scenes from the earlier mission in between scenes of the present day. And then there's Observer Effect. The agents investigate a cutting-edge physics laboratory that may have looked a little too deeply into the nature of reality. You can pre-order Delta Green: A Night at the Opera as a hardcover and PDF collection for $39.99. As of, I think, a couple of days ago, they're about halfway. I think they're a little more than halfway to those 300 pre-orders because they are tracking them on the Arc Dream Publishing website. Anyway, so how about a little comic-related news? Although, I have to be honest, I'm talking about comic strips here, as IDW Publishing has revealed that they will be collecting, I know it's going to be in September, and that's pretty much a long way off, but Bloom County fans are going to be really excited because they're going to pick up right where they left off and collect year 3 of Burt Breathitt's Bloom County. And as I mentioned before, this is going to pick up where they've left off. And it is called Bloom County Shenaniganary, I should say. Bloom County Shenaniganary. It will collect year 3 of, as previously mentioned, Burt Breathitt's newest Bloom County strips. The residents of Bloom County are back to put their trademark tragic comic spin on the horrors of the previous year. So lock all your worries in the anxiety closet for a bit. Who knows? When you come back, they may be just the tiniest bit funnier. The stakes are higher, the punchlines are sharper, and the laughter is more desperate. This marks the 3rd volume in an ongoing series collecting the Bloom County series relaunched in 2015, and fans of political satire will not want to miss it, as we need Opus, Bill the Cat, and all their friends more than ever to make sense of today's increasingly nonsensical world. Bloom County Shenaniganary will be available for $19.99 in comic shops and bookstores in September of this year. I do want to point out, don't forget, IDW recently released a deluxe 2-volume box set called Bloom County Real, Classy, and Complete 1980 to 1989 as a collection, and it is available from IDW for $99.99. I have to say, growing up, Bloom County was kind of the highlight of our day on the way to high school. Now, I think it was about 1981, when I first started reading Bloom County. And every morning on the way to school, I would pick up the Chicago Sun-Times, because that was the newspaper that carried Bloom County, and would have to see the latest strip. And of course, everybody I was friends with, we were all into Bloom County. And it was funny because most people weren't fans of the Sun-Times. Chicago Tribune always outsold it. But the Sun-Times had Bloom County, and the Sun-Times had Mike Royko's column, and a pretty good sports section. So that's why I used to pick it up. So I actually have the complete collection because I love Bloom County. I even had a stuffed Opus for years until somebody stole it from my apartment at the time. Boy, I tell you gotta watch who you let in the door. Anyway, all right, so that is pretty much the news as far as what I need a teleprompter for. Get rid of that teleprompter. But there was one final news item I didn't throw together any kind of slides or anything for. And if you're a fan of the Walking Dead comic from Image, you might be a little upset to find out that your monthly dose of The Walking Dead is going to cost you more, because it has been revealed that The Walking Dead is going to jump up in price per comic, per issue, from $2.99 to $3.99. And that's pretty much more in keeping with other Image titles that come out. On the other hand, The Walking Dead is a black and white comic, so I'm sure there are going to be some fans out there who are going to be miffed that they're effectively seeing the cost of The Walking Dead rise per issue 25%. So there is that. Anyway, so I've got a pretty good sized show today, and I am going to get into the unboxing for Ancestree in just a moment. Did want to jump in the mailbag real quick. I've gotten some questions from folks. I'm not going to name each and every one of them regarding a Kickstarter. Am I ever going to do a Kickstarter? Because I have mentioned before, you know, the show is with, you know, equipment and stuff that I've got available to me, right? So folks were asking, so why don't you ever do a Kickstarter, Jeff? All these other places, all these other people, they're always doing Kickstarters to take care of their coverage for the year and stuff like that. And I don't know, part of me is that whole old school thing where it's like, okay, I don't know. It seems weird to me to be like, oh yeah, hey, help me do this stuff. Help me do this fun stuff. Pay for me to do stuff. You know, sounds kind of, it feels weird. But there were some folks who did actually make a few pretty interesting observations and some points in their emails to me. So I am bouncing around, maybe doing a Kickstarter in March for the Gaming Gang, of course, and that would mean the Daily Dope as well. I don't know. I'm considering it. I'm no longer, no, I don't want to do that. I am sort of considering it. Just to try to defray some of the costs of the conventions that we cover. Don't know. The other hand, one of the reasons I really, as far as a Kickstarter goes, I sit there and I think, well, how embarrassing would it be if, you know, because it's not like I'd sit there saying, oh yeah, our goal is $50,000 or something like that. But how embarrassing would it be if it's, you know, pretty low goal and it's like, everybody's like, we're not interested. So anyway, so just wanted to toss out that quick mailbag item there. Anyway, what's coming up on tomorrow's show? Well, first let me point out, if you missed yesterday's show, I did pop out my first giveaway for 2018, and it is the module Battles of the Warrior Queen. Haha, I'll just block my face out. Get rid of my face for radio out of the way. It's from GMT. It's a module for Caesar, Conquest of Gaul. And I did a first look at this yesterday, and I do not happen to own the game. GMT was very kind to... GMT's super cool with me. Love those guys. Love the gang over there. But I don't happen to have the game. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give this away, but I'm not going to tell you how to do it because I talked about it on yesterday's show. So if you're interested, if you're a war gamer and you have Caesar Conquest of Gaul and you don't have Battles of the Warrior Queen that just came out, check out yesterday's show. And I don't make it that difficult to win it. Plus, I don't hide the contest. It's actually right there in the kind of show note time codes, so that yeah, you don't have to necessarily sit and watch the entire show to find out how you can win. But tomorrow I am reviewing Welcome to Centerville from GMT Games. A lot of GMT Games stuff going on here lately. I love these guys. These are super cool guys. Gene and Tony and the rest of the gang. So that is on tomorrow's show. So anyway, so let's take a look at Ancestree from the fine folks at Calliope Games. As I switch on over this way, this is for ages 8 and up. Plays in about 20 to 40 minutes. And it carries an MSRP of $30. And I think it's for 2 to 6 players. We'll take a peek on the back. Taking a look at the back here. Yeah, because it says 6 scoreboards. Yep. So it's for 6 players. And as I mentioned, from my understanding, and if you haven't seen any unboxings or haven't watched, you know, the Daily Dope, I tend to go on my unboxings pretty cold. I don't sit there reading a whole lot of information about the games because I want to kind of approach it as, you know, most people would when you pick up a game. You might hear some things about it, but you don't know a lot in depth unless you spend a lot of time watching videos or hanging out on Board Game Geek. But from the box back, it says, it's late at night and you're in the historical archives, proving to your rivals that you have the greatest lineage of them all. Over 3 rounds, you'll choose and pass tiles, revealing ancestors from around the world and joining them to one another. Match leaves and hearts to blossom relationships, cultivating the wealthiest and most powerful family tree. Branch out and win by sprouting generations, amassing wealth, and celebrating marriages. Show everyone that your family is the best of all time by growing a legendary Ancestree. Okay. And it is designed by Eric M. Lang. Let's pop this on open. Take a look. This is kind of a hefty box. I was a little surprised because a lot of times family games, you know, you find a lot of kind of empty air in the box, but no, I was a little surprised. Of course, you know, it's a tile game, so the tiles are going to take up a bit of weight. Let's see what we got. My family's better than yours. It's like some interesting artwork, too, and we'll get a much closer peek at that. All right, so we got the rules. Not too long here. Let's take a look at the rule book here. Nice stock, really nice stock on the pages here. Yep, 2 to 6 players, ages 8 and up, plays about 20 minutes. I assume more players you have, going to take a bit longer. So we've got the object of the game showing us some of the components. So we've got tiles. I don't know, maybe those are round markers there. Money, money, money. So it says this contains 110 ancestor tiles, 6 scoreboards, 96 dynasty tokens. Ah, that's the 1, 2, 3s there. And 110 gold tokens in denominations of 1, 5, and 10. This font's a little kind of odd. Kind of a handwritten font. It's a little tough to make out that number there. So it's talking about the setup, the ancestor tiles. Let's see, it was talking about the hearts, and I can see we've got a little half of a heart here, a little half of a heart there. So that's what they were talking about, putting hearts together to create relationships. We've got gameplay, marriage, parent and child, siblings and in-laws. Oh, yes, the in-laws. End of the round. It's kind of giving us an idea how these trees kind of work together here. Comparing the dynasties. There we go. Another kind of... And there's a drafting mechanic, I believe, was what it was saying, that you're going to choose and then pass tiles. So I believe you're going to actually draft tiles. End of the game and marriage bonuses. It's showing us a listing of the bonus points for the number of marriages. Hey, hey, being the winner. And then the credits. And take a look at the illustrator here. It's Larry Elmore. And anyone who had really played any sort of Dungeons and Dragons over the years is very, very familiar with Larry Elmore's work. I forgot about that until I saw the credits, that he did the illustrations for the tiles. All right, it's a nice, solid scoring board. So we're going to have 6 of these. These are, I guess, each of the rounds. Or dynasty rankings, because those counters, we're talking about that. So we've got 6 of these. Then we've got the money tokens. And the different denominations. So we've got sort of a bronzish color is the ones. Looks like silver's 5, gold is 10. Then we've got these, I believe they said these were dynasty tokens here. I don't think we really need to pull these little tokens out. And then we've got the tiles. Well, I can see there's some duplicates already. Kind of squeezed in here. All right, come on, come on, come on. Alrighty, already ready. Okay. Taking a look at the different icons here. Peek here. I'm taking a guess because you got like 2 coins right below the image. Maybe this character here, this guy's a little wealthy. The gold digger's coming, you know. Never know. Never know. There's an icon up top here. Or if that indicates simply that he's a male. Or if that's kind of a house crest. Got another one just like that. Might be sort of a kind of like a family crest. Maybe that's it. Okay, so we got a. It looks like there were quite a few of this guy. Yep. It's like 3 of them. There's another one of him down here. That's 4. There's another one of them here. That's 5. Kind of nondescript dude, I suppose. Yep, as we can see, don't want anybody getting upset. Hold on. When we put the tiles together, see how it forms that heart. So that would no doubt be the relationship you're trying to build with these 2 tiles. Yeah, look at this Miss Hoity-Toity there. She looks rather full of herself, I would say. Guess we got 3 of those. Guys look like what? I'm marrying who? What's going on? Huh? The ones that don't have, well, he's got a heart on this side. Now, some of them have hearts on both sides. Some don't have any hearts at all. Or half heart, I guess I would say. Half-hearted. Kind of giving us an idea. Huh. Kind of neat artwork. Okay, this one's different. So I was going to say, the ones that don't have a heart, I'm taking a guess that maybe they are children? I don't know. Or maybe they're like the black sheep of the family? I don't know. I'm very artistic, aren't I? Okay. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, don't want a wife who's swinging something at your head. Oh yeah, here, I'll crack you upside the head with his roller. Just trying to find some of the different artwork here. Huh. Neat. I know. I'm old school. I say neat. Let's see what other tiles we've got over here. Whoops. Back in here. Yes, you can have a Mesoamerica family. American, I guess I would say. So what do you take a stab that we take these tiles and they're all laid face down? I don't see a draw bag, so you're not drawing them. Maybe you take so many tiles every round, depending on the number of players. Sweet. Get the last of these out. We'll take a look here. And we notice there's all these kind of colored frames around them as well. I wonder if that has something to do with anything. I'm sure it probably does. As some sort of an indicator. Ah, there we go. That one's different. Hadn't seen that one before. Ooh, so's that one. Could I interest you in a camel by any chance? Are you in the market for a new camel? He's in a good mood. He's not married to the woman with the rolling pin, obviously. This guy doesn't look too thrilled. I can tell you right now, this is with the various different nationalities and things like that, very inclusive. Very inclusive with what's on these tiles. And did we look at these? We may have looked at these. Let's see. Seen those? Not positive if we saw that one. These tiles are, yeah, saw that guy. These tiles are a nice thickness, too. Got a little bit of a finish to them, so that's nice. All right. I am going to have to bust this on out with the kids over the weekend. And check this out, because this does... I mean, you know, okay, so they're just tiles and stuff like that, but... I mean, I can't tell you what this icon up top here is. That looks like a coin, so I'm assuming there's some worth involved in there. I can tell that the little hearts, you need to match those up. Don't know what the colors around these borders might mean, though. Although it might just simply be that family or region or something like that. So we've got the, what were they, 110 tiles? Somewhere in that vicinity. Got the various different money tokens. Then we've got these dynasty tokens. And of course, it's not all going to fit back in the way it was originally. Of course! Never happens that way. We've got the scoring boards. Leave those out for a sec. Then we got the rule book. Get rid of that. And that is what we have in Ancestry, designed by Eric M. Lang from the kind folks over at Calliope Games. As I mentioned before, it's for 2 to 6 players, ages 8 and up, and it carries an MSRP of $30. Nice. I will have a review of this hopefully next week. I'm trying to get reviews out as quickly as I possibly can, and trying to get as much gaming in with various members of the gang whenever I can. Okay, so, all right. Very, very nice. So that, ladies and gents, is Ancestry. Cool beans. All right, so I also have a review of the Two Headed Serpent from Chaosium Publishing. And it's called Cthulhu, but it's really Pulp Cthulhu. So if you're not overly familiar with Pulp Cthulhu, it was a supplement that was released for 7th edition Call of Cthulhu that gives the game a pulpier feel. So more like pulp adventures, and you could have characters who might have various skills. I don't want to say super heroic, but a little kind of off the beaten path sorts of things. So for an example, maybe the Shadow, Doc Savage, well, they're a little more superhero-ish. But it makes a lot of changes to kind of the lethality of Call of Cthulhu, because it gives the player characters a lot more options as far as staying alive, and I liked it. I thought it was a pretty cool supplement because it covered different amounts of pulpiness. And when I would be running Call of Cthulhu, and I've run Call of Cthulhu for a long time, we're talking all the way back when the first boxed edition came out, I always had some action and kind of a little bit of pulp to it. Did a lot of, kind of like two-fisted action and a lot of chases and things like that. Didn't have the player characters in the games I ran never had, psychic powers or super strength or anything like that. But I always like to give kind of, like an Indiana Jones-ish feel to some of the proceedings. So the Pulp Cthulhu supplement gives you some options of how pulpy, I guess we would say, you can make the game. So the first campaign that came out for Pulp Cthulhu is the Two Headed Serpent. And it is 272 pages long. And what I've done is I'm showing off some images in that because I only had the PDF for a review. And as I mentioned before, I'm kind of considering maybe if just showing some images as I talk, and I'm going to kind of bounce back and forth. I'm not going to just leave these images up. But I might look at maybe zooming in on the other camera to my iPad, kind of trying to show things off that way. I don't know if we'll have a problem with glare. So, doing my best, because as far as role-playing games and a lot of role-playing supplements and adventures and core books and things like that, obviously a publisher is going to want to share PDFs for review for reviewers, because they're really not taking a hit profit-wise. I mean, it's just an electronic file. Whereas if they send you out a print edition, that's something that they could have had on a store shelf or at a retailer somewhere that could be sold. So I already have mentioned a few times before when we've talked about role-playing games, companies that really focus on role-playing are not as big money makers as you may think. And I really want to try to do my best to not only help spread the word about different products, but help the publishers out too by not taking taking profits out of their pockets. Anyway, let me grab a sip here. This is going to be a little interesting as far as doing a review for the Two Headed Serpent, because it's a campaign. And I don't want to spoil really anything for potential GMs, or I should say, keepers. I don't want to spoil any surprises for keepers, and I certainly do not want to spoil any surprises for the players out there, because I'm sure there are folks who will catch this show and they're a player. But I do want to at least give folks a feel for the campaign book itself. Is it worth going out and purchasing in either PDF or to go pick it up in hardcover, because Chaosium has it available in hardcover? And if you're a player, then I want to see, if it sparks your interest, then I certainly would want you to talk to your keeper and say, hey, Mary, Mike, whoever it is, I'd really, really love for you to pick up the Two Headed Serpent, because Jeff over at the Daily Dope / the Gaming Gang said whatever I have to say about it. I don't want to give away the score yet. So allow me to kind of share kind of a little bit of the background information about the Two Headed Serpent. The Two Headed Serpent is an epic, action-packed, and globe-spanning campaign for Pulp Cthulhu. The world needs heroes, now more than ever. The Two Headed Serpent is an action-packed, globe-spanning, and high-octane campaign set in the 1930s for Pulp Cthulhu. The heroes face the sinister conspiracies of an ancient race of monsters hell-bent on taking back a world that was once theirs. Working for Caduceus, I don't know, that's how I was pronouncing it, a medical aid organization, the heroes will loot a lost temple in the forests of Bolivia, go head-to-head with the mafia in New York City, face a deadly epidemic in the jungles of North Borneo, uncover the workings of a strange cult in Dust Bowl-era Oklahoma, infiltrate enemy territory inside an awakening volcano in Iceland, face the horrors of hideous medical experiments in the Congo, race to control an ancient and powerful artifact on the streets of Calcutta, and ultimately travel to a lost continent for a desperate battle to save humanity from enslavement or annihilation. Of course, if you're a player now, I've actually kind of given you a few things, but you could have found that out online. Packed with 9 adrenaline-fueled adventures, keeper advice, gorgeous full-color maps, and player handouts. It is, as I mentioned before, 272 pages. You can pick it up in PDF for $22.50, or you can get it for $44.95 in hardcover. And The Two-Headed Serpent is written by Paul Fricker, Scott Dorward, and Matthew Sanderson. So, what do I think about the Two-Headed Serpent? And the first thing that I would mention, and I will just kind of pop back to me for a second. Most Call of Cthulhu campaigns, especially those that have been released by Chaosium over the years, are always going to be compared to Masks of Nyarlathotep, which for many people is the gold standard in role-playing game campaigns. Yes, there are some issues with it. Some thought processes, I guess we would say, have not aged well, because Masks of Nyarlathotep came out early 80s, so not a politically correct decade by any stretch. So yes, so I know there are some issues in it, but it is still gotta be one of my all-time favorite campaigns that I ever ran for any game. So of course there's always going to be comparisons that come out for campaigns that are released from Chaosium. I will tell you in a moment how that stacks up. So the first thing I want to do is I just want to get out of the way some of the things I didn't necessarily care for in the Two-Headed Serpent. And there aren't a lot, so don't worry, it's not going to just go on and on and on. First thing is, I guess it's not something I didn't like, but it's something that really, really has to be pointed out for any potential keeper out there, is this is a Pulp Cthulhu campaign. This is not a Call of Cthulhu campaign. So if you are used to running more traditional games of Call of Cthulhu, where it's not unusual to see a total party kill happen in a game of Call of Cthulhu, you're going to have to kind of wrap your head around this a little bit differently and change your approach, because this is a pulpy adventure. This has got a lot of action, a lot of combat, not as much investigation as players are used to in, say, a traditional sort of Call of Cthulhu game. And you have to sometimes allow your players a little bit of leeway, got to fudge a little bit sometimes if you're going to get them through this campaign in one piece. Excuse me. Now, that's not to say that you can't whack one of your player characters because they do something really stupid. I'm not saying that at all. And I'm not saying that every character who starts off this campaign should survive to the end. I'm not saying that whatsoever. But I am trying to say that you're going to have to kind of take your foot off the brake as far as how easily you allow your player characters to take dirt naps. So that's something I do want to mention, that it is a pulpy campaign. Doesn't make it bad. I'm just letting folks know. And, you know, of course, Chaosium says, well, you know, you can change it up and, you know, make it more traditional Call Cthulhu. I don't see it. I really don't. I don't really see going in that direction. So, FYI, this is a pulpy campaign. Okay, so one of the things that kind of, I don't want to say bugged me, but I didn't care for, is that, like, a big reveal, which as a keeper, I would have liked to, I would keep secret. I would want the players to discover this themselves. One big reveal happens right off the bat. The players don't have to do anything to find this out. And I honestly would have thought that it would have made for a much more entertaining campaign if this one thing that it's in the first adventure, you're going to end up running into it, like, probably within the first hour of gameplay. Kind of just, to me, it fell flat. It was sort of, what? Wait a second. You couldn't have, gonna kind of, you know, add a little extra adventure before this for the players to find this out through a little investigation, as opposed to, oh, hey, by the way, let me tell you, this isn't right, man. This isn't what you think. So yeah, that fell a little flat. I will also point out that the various adventures that make up the campaign do vary a bit as far as, I don't want to necessarily just say quality, I just, involvement and amount of detailed background. Some are just jam-packed, where it's like, wow, okay, so I've read through this and I'm good to go. Yeah, I'm going to have to glance over this one more time. And yeah, I can piece this in really nicely. Love it. And then there's others where it's just really glossed over. And you're kind of like, yeah, I'm going to have to put a little work into this so I can kind of make this a consistent experience across the entire campaign. See, in my years of playing Call of Cthulhu, and the vast majority of the adventures and so, you know, campaigns and things like that I've done, even some one-shots, we're always in the 20s. We're always in the 1920s. I think we ventured into the 30s a little bit. But I would actually had books all about different news events from the 1920s and just life in the 1920s, so that I could have that little, yeah, I'm always talking about GMs, keepers, dungeon masters, whatever. You have to have tools in the toolbox that you can pull out whenever you think it might be needed. And I was always one of these kind of people who would say, okay, well, let's see, June of 1923, here was some weird stuff that had happened, or, you know, so on and so forth. Different almanac kind of stuff. And some of that kind of like detail is missing in some of the adventures. So, in my opinion, a keeper is going to have to put in a bit more work on some of the adventures just to create kind of an even flow across the entire campaign. Those are kind of the negatives. That's it. I mean, that's really, as far as the game itself, I mean, that's really what I didn't care so much for, as opposed to what I really, really liked. And there's a lot that I really, really liked, because this campaign really has it all. It covers a lot of bases, and all the protagonists, villains that they're going to face, or challenges they're going to face, are varied. It's not just the same rinse and repeat over and over again. There are some really, really cool opportunities for some real solid, action-packed, two-fisted, Tommy guns roaring action in this game. And there is one adventure that really stands out to me, and it's the one that takes place in Oklahoma. And it is spooky. It is it's funny because you don't see even horror games that, you know, and Call of Cthulhu and the variety of different horror games that have been out there over the years. Just reading an adventure or scenario or whatever, it usually doesn't kind of creep you out. You're just sort of like, okay. And then, you know, Keeper sitting there going, all right, so, okay, so I know my players. So how can I turn the screws on this and kind of creep them out or, you know, spook them? But just reading it, you're not sitting there going, oh, man, whew. I'll tell you, it's pretty, not like bizarre, like over the top, holy cow, I got to put this down, scary, but sort of like, wow, all right. So there's that. I think everything works really, really well when it's all strung together. There's plenty to keep the players occupied and to keep them interested too. Because I do know from past experiences, sometimes with the traditional game of Call of Cthulhu, or as we used to always call it, Sea of C. I know a lot of people out there refer to it as COC. We always called it Sea of C. That players can kind of lose focus sometimes. If they're, you know, doing a lot of investigating, a lot of library use, things like that. Maybe they're not finding the clues that they're supposed to find. Maybe they're just not piecing clues together the way that you thought maybe they would, and they find that they've kind of run across a brick wall. You'll see some of the enthusiasm around the table kind of wane. And an experienced keeper they're used to seeing that, and there's ways for you to pump everybody back up. Easiest is just give them a damn clue that they couldn't find that's going to help them out. But there's really not a lot of kind of boring downtime. Not that there's really boring downtime in Call of Cthulhu, but there's just a lot going on, and there's a lot to continually move the action along from one place to another place. And when they talk about that, when Chaosium talks about this is a globe-spanning campaign, they're not kidding. They are not kidding. It is everywhere. It's all over the place. And in those travels, of course, keepers have an opportunity to throw in their own little twist. It's kind of funny, jumping off topic a little bit. Back in the day, when it was Elliot Miller, my best friend, his nephew Paul, and another mutual friend of ours, Ed Ruprecht, those were my three players for Call of Cthulhu for years. And it was kind of interesting because Paul would try to go off on his own little stories and jaunts and things like that. And one of the things I love about role-playing games is you can just toss something out one time. It's kind of a throwaway that you put out there just on a lark, and it suddenly takes on a life of its own. So, and it's not part of any published adventure. It's not something that you've already plotted out in your game. And I always like the whole, traveling from different locations, because it gives you a lot of opportunities to just throw some extra flavor into the game. And you never know when suddenly some nondescript NPC becomes like a lifelong enemy of one of the players or something like that. It's pretty wild how you can work that. So there is a lot of opportunities for you to do that in the Two Headed Serpent. Something else that I really thought was very nicely done, and you don't normally see this whole lot in various campaigns, you see it a little more nowadays than you did in the past, but it's still not something extremely common, is that the authors included sidebars that talk about what went on during some of the play testing of this campaign, as well as some of the adventures itself. And mentioning, like I said earlier, that keepers are going to have to fudge a little bit to try to help the players survive, because there's some really tough challenges ahead of them in this campaign. Even reading these sidebars, you kind of found, well, yeah, okay, so they needed to kind of do this a little bit or do that a little bit. But it really helps a keeper prepare for what stumbling blocks might pop up as they run the Two-Headed Serpent. So I really did appreciate that. I really like that a lot. And there are quite a few of these sidebars to help you out. As far as the quality of the product itself, as you can just tell just from the few images that I'm sharing right now, it is really nicely done. I can only vouch for the PDF. So the PDF is very nicely done. Lots of images, but it's not one of these products where it's like, oh my gosh, there is just so many images and just fluff that I'm not getting a lot of gaming material. No, there's loads and loads of gaming material in this. But really nicely done. I know some folks out there don't like to see duplications of like player handouts, where you'll have the player handout in, say, on one page that's kind of in the scope of that adventure, and then at the end of the book, then there's all the player handouts. To me, I think that's more of an issue for people when it's a physical book that they've purchased as opposed to a PDF. I don't see what the real big issue is, because I never really minded it, simply because I like that better than if it was, I was reading something and it said, okay, player handout number 76, and you had to go to the back of the book to find player handout 76. I preferred to have it right in front of me so I could take a peek at it in the context of the adventure I was putting together. So really nicely done. Various different artwork. Like I said, I was trying to stay away from spoilers in this review too, so I'm only actually sharing some images from early on in the campaign as well. And I hope Chaosium doesn't mind that I've done this. Damn you, Jeff, you're sharing those 9 images. But so yes, very nicely done. I don't know what the hardcover looks like, but Chaosium's usually done a pretty good job with hardcovers as well. Only other thing that I would maybe mention, and it's neither a positive nor a negative, I sort of have the impression that the Two-Headed Serpent really, you need to have a little bit of experience as a keeper to get the most out of it. As I mentioned, there's going to be a little bit of need for doing a little more prep, investing a little more energy into some of the adventures just so that the campaign has an even flow. I'm not one to, I don't need to actually sit there and game out every day of a transatlantic crossing, but it's also nice to have a little bit of detail about the travel and things like that. So that's why I'm saying not everything's spelled out, not everything is handed to the keeper on a platter as far as this campaign book. So, like I said, probably need to have a little bit of experience as a keeper. I'm not saying you need years and years of running role-playing games, but try to get a few maybe standalone adventures out of the way before you get started. And because it is a Pulp Cthulhu campaign, it isn't it's not really a stretch to think that most players are going to create characters especially for this campaign. So that gives you an opportunity to kind of, for beginning keepers, dip your toes in some other Call of Cthulhu stuff, then prepare yourself to do the Pulp Cthulhu campaign for the Two-Headed Serpent. All right, so I really dig the Two-Headed Serpent, even for some of the minor issues that it has. A solid keeper, a clever keeper, a keeper who can think on their toes, they're gonna be fine. I mean, for some of the issues that I had. Overall, I think it's an excellent product. It's not up there with Masks of Nyarlathotep, okay? It's just not. It's but it is damn good, and in my opinion, and I didn't do a review for Horror on the Orient Express. That campaign never jumped out at me. Even back in the day when it was originally published, I never really got into that campaign. I thought it was all right. I didn't think it was, wow, this is fantastic. I don't really have to change much to this. So I do think, all in all, it is a much more exciting, entertaining campaign than Horror on the Orient Express. And I apologize to the folks out at Chaosium for me saying that, but I'm just being honest. It's just an opinion, just like everybody else has one. But I do think that this is loads of fun, especially for those of you out there who kind of understand pulp adventures and the, old pulp magazines, and the Shadow and the Green Hornet and the Spider and Doc Savage, things like that, who know that there's going to be more action and explosions and things like that than a typical Call of Cthulhu game. Giving it a score on a 1 to 10, I am going to give the Two Headed Serpent an 8.7. Very, very good product. Like I said, just have a few issues with it, nothing horrible. And once again, it's just based on how I like to run a campaign. So most definitely, if you're interested in checking it out, swing on over. You can go to Chaosium, you can go to DriveThruRPG and pick it up in PDF. Of course, I've mentioned before, if you go to thegaminggang.com and click on a banner to DriveThru, it helps us out. Not gonna keep banging that drum every time. I think folks probably know by now. And of course, you can get it in hardcover. So PDF, it's $22.50. And in hardcover from Chaosium, it is $44.95. So yes, a big thumbs up for the Two Headed Serpent. And I have to say, I have had that PDF for a while. And I didn't do a review because I was kind of bouncing around because the whole, am I going to do this live show thing every weekday? Am I just going to continue kind of doing the things that I'm doing with the Gaming Gang the way it is? And it sort of kind of fell by the wayside. So because it's Thursday and I like doing RPG stuff on Thursdays, that's why I wanted to make sure that I got that out for everybody. Something else I will point out, if you were kind of catching the review in the comments on YouTube, do me a favor. Is it okay doing the little slides during a review? Is it boring? To me, I kind of like to have a book to page through and kind of talk about it and things like that. Then again, it's a campaign. We didn't want to page through the whole thing and give everything away. So let me know in the comments if you think that would be kind of an all right way to present some of these role-playing game products. Anyway, I actually show went a little bit longer than I had expected. I thought it was maybe going to be about an hour, clocking in about an hour 15 minutes. So right in the vicinity of how I like to have the show. They have between an hour, 90 minutes. Anyway, that is what I've got for today. Tomorrow, as previously mentioned, I am going to review Welcome to Centerville for Family Fun Friday. And when you are not checking out the Daily Dope, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for the latest in gaming news, reviews, comics, movies, TV. You know the drill by now. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. I will be back tomorrow. It will be Friday, thank goodness. And until then, stay warm and enjoy the rest of your Thursday.